Today on Locked On Blue Jackets, we are going to be previewing the Carolina Hurricanes game tonight, and also we're going to be continuing the conversation that I started yesterday about, Johnny Gaudreau's ice time and then also everyone else's ice time. I got some really good comments from YouTube, so that's what we're going to do today on Locked On Blue Jackets.
Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to bring you news, stories, ups, downs, excitement, disappointment, all of the above, and more about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I do want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and also over on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed yet over there, then please feel free to do so. It helps me out, it helps you out. You get notified when new episodes go live. Everybody wins. I also want to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before because BetOnline is where the game starts. And where this podcast is going to start is with the Carolina Hurricanes, unfortunately. Blue Jackets, they just played them. They just played them 5 days ago, and now they have to do it again, which seems unfair, frankly. I believe this is the last one of the season, though, which is exciting because then we don't have to pay attention to them anymore, which I personally love. The Hurricanes, they're not on their insane win streak anymore. They are 6-3-1 in their last 10, though. That one is courtesy of the Blue Jackets. They won their last one, 4-3 in a shootout, the Kirill Marchenko hat-trick game. It'd be real nice if we could do that again, I think. I think that would be pretty neat. Some lineup news from the Blue Jackets side of things. Trey Fix-Polanski is likely going to go in today. Carson Meyer is out with an upper body injury. He is out, I believe, for 6 to 8 weeks. So I guess just go ahead and add him to the injured reserve list. Let the man games lost just continue to stack up. There was no Elvis at practice for another lineup. So I would assume that Korpisalo is going to start tonight, backed up by Daniil Tarasov. They reassigned Jet Greaves to Cleveland, so he's back down there, which I assume that means Daniil Tarasov is ready to go. Elvis is out as a precaution, apparently. He's facing some lingering illness issues. Yep, Jonas Korpisalo will be a net. It's going to be his 200th game, and there's going to be a lot of game time decisions tonight. If we look at the lines for morning skate, Gaudreau, Patrik Laine, then Nyquist, Johnson, Bemstrom in the top 6, and then this is where it's probably going to get a little bit fuzzy. Foudy, Kuraly, Olivier, and then Fix-Polanski, Sillinger, and Marchenko. I know Eric Robinson was skating as well. I don't know if he'll be in, but it's a good sign that he's skating. Gavrikov, Peak, Bernie Gabranson, Berutha, and Boquist as your top 6 defensemen, although Vladislav Gavrikov also missed the last game. That does put Marcus Bjork as the extra. I assume if Gavrikov can't go, Bjork will add in. Doesn't look like Nick Blankenburg is on the ice, which is a little bit of a worry. Hopefully, I was hoping that he would be back sooner rather than later, but I guess not. I guess they want to. I think what he did was he broke his ankle and sprained his ankle. It was a high ankle sprain, and you've got to be really careful with those. They're not like regular ankle sprains; they are worse, more painful ankle sprains. So I assume that they're just being super careful with him. I would like to see him back, but I would also like to see him back when he is 100% healthy and ready to go. I don't think this team needs to rush him back. We've talked about that at length about if a player is hurt, then they need as much time as they need. You don't need to rush a player back in this season because the season's already lost. There is not one player on this team, I think, that could drag this team out of the basement. So I'd like to see Nick Blankenburg back, but I'm not in favor of rushing him back. On the Carolina Hurricanes side, Max Pacioretty is back, with a vengeance. He missed most of the season so far with, I believe he had off-season surgery. He's only played 3 games so far. One of them was against the Blue Jackets, that January 7th. He had 2 goals. And then he had another goal against the New Jersey Devils on the 10th. So they've only played one game since the last time they faced the Blue Jackets. Pacioretty has 3 goals in his last 5 games, or 3 goals in his last 2 games, technically. So he's definitely one to watch. Sebastian Aho doing Sebastian Aho things. He's got 5 points in his last 5 games. And the goaltending continues to be pretty spectacular. Kochekov is 10-4-4. He's got a 914 save percentage and 3 shutouts. Antti Ranta, who was in for the loss against Columbus last time, he's got an 894 save percentage, but he's still 10-2-3. So, and he's got 2 shutouts. So it's not. I would assume that they're going to put Kochekov in against the Blue Jackets tonight. I don't know why they put Ranta in last night, but typically I assume that that's just what they're going to do. Sometimes the Blue Jackets get the benefit of the doubt and they get to play the backup, but we'll see. Like I said, Korpisalo in net for the Blue Jackets. He's been good. He's got a 913 save percentage, which is way higher than anyone else on the Blue Jackets. He's only 6-7-1, but that 913 is really promising for Korpisalo. So I don't know what to make of this game, honestly. It wouldn't surprise me if the Blue Jackets came out and just fell on their faces, and it also wouldn't surprise me if they have another, high-octane 4-3, 5-4 win in, like, the 18th round of the shootout or something. I don't think that'll happen, but that's neither one would surprise me. I do like to think that the Blue Jackets would win. They are on a little bit of a losing streak at the minute. They have lost 2 games or 3 games since that last Hurricanes game. So not great, but at this point, like, if they lose, they lose, and we get closer to Connor Bedard. If they win, then it's great. I get to be excited. I get to talk about a win on the podcast. So it's kind of 50-50 here. But that's, you know what? Let's make a prediction. Let's go. I'm going to say 4-2 Blue Jackets. And I'm going to say that the opening goal is scored by, I'm going to say Kirill Marchenko, who has been red hot. My backup answer, if I'm allowed to do 2, and it's my podcast, so I can do what I want, is going to be Patrik Laine. He's not scored in a minute, and I think he's overdue. And we're going to talk about Patrik Laine in a little bit, because I got a really interesting Instagram, that's not even almost the right platform. I got a really interesting YouTube comment that we're going to talk about in the next segment. There's a lot of different points in it, but we're going to start off with Patrik Laine, so we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But first, I've got to tell you about BetOnline, because it is your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to baseball's coming back soon to hockey to college sports. If you want to bet on the Blue Jackets winning tonight, you can do that at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, and if you're listening to Locked on Blue Jackets, I'm going to go ahead and assume that you love sports podcasts. You can find those at BetOnline as well. They are the fastest and easiest way to get your betting information. So head to the website today, or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. And thank you so much for making Locked on Blue Jackets your first listen of the day every day. We are free and available on all podcast platforms. We are available on YouTube. You're never going to have to get behind a paywall for a Locked on product. And that is our promise to you. So let's... I got a really great comment from M. Lind, who is a frequent watcher, frequent commenter. Super appreciate you, my guy. And it's really long and involved. So I'm gonna go kind of piece by piece, because there's some things I agree with and there's some things that I don't agree with. And so I wanted to really kind of break this comment down, because I think it's really great. So we're going to start off with, we talk about Patrik Laine. He may not have scored last night, but Laine was the best player on the ice yesterday. Most of the scoring chances were direct or non-direct consequences of Patty checking. I don't think, however, Roslovic was contributing much, brackets, surprise, surprise, and Nyquist had a surprisingly erroneous game. Some casuals are giving Patty some crap just because he isn't scoring all the time, but he is more than that now. Plus, he creates more rebounds above expected than anyone else on the team. The boys just aren't scoring on them. Don't even mention the power play. Patty has half the shooting percentage on unblocked shots compared to Ovechkin. The guys need to get the puck moving much better and make it so Patty has a better lane in front of him. He isn't getting the chance to shoot either. Ovi on the Caps has 4 times more shots on goal on the power play, even though he has only played 1.72 times more games. So I agree with basically all of this, actually. I think that Laine has been, yes, he hasn't been scoring, but I think since coming back from injury and illness, like he looks like he's missing a step, but in a way where him missing a step is still, way above any other player, or most other players. He's been our most consistent forward in terms of possession, which is a kind of a drum that I've been banging basically all season. I don't know if he's still. We're going to pull up Natural Stat Trick to see what they say, but the last I checked, he was the only healthy Blue Jacket that was above 50% in possession numbers. So we'll see if that's still true. He had a great game against Washington. He is, in fact, yes, he is the only healthy player on the roster that's above 50% right now. He's at 50.13. He's been in the ice 378 shot attempts for and 376 against. The problem is a lot of the shots that he's on the ice for are in fact getting blocked. Like I said, he's doing everything right. And he's become, like you say, he's become much more than a one-trick pony, I think, which is a thing that he's been getting for a lot of his career, is, Patrik Laine can only shoot the puck. Patrik Laine can only stand in that Ovechkin spot. And I think it's just as stupid as saying that Ovechkin just kind of stands in one spot and shoots, because Ovechkin is so much more than that power play guy. I do think the power play helps. I really do. In the same way that I think if the Blue Jackets could get the power play going, I think Patrik Laine would just kind of feast on that. They get more shots. I agree that he needs help on the power play. And I think, we've talked a little bit about, I think I've talked a little bit on Twitter about how baffling the power play units are for me. I think the top unit at the minute is Roslovic, Nyquist, Boquist, Laine, and Gaudreau. And obviously with Jenner out, the net front presence is not really there. Boquist is kind of the third option for the defenseman to quarterback the power play. I think Bean and Werenski were both more effective at doing that, but here we are. They play with what they have, But I do think that, if the power play is clicking, if they get the right personnel on there, I would put Marchenko and Johnson on that top power play line. Maybe do the what they do with the Boone Jenner thing, where they get someone else to take the face off and then immediately swap them out for Johnson, because Johnson has been struggling for face offs. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That just is what it is. And I think, a lot of bounces have been going the opposite of Laine's way. When the bounces are there, he's good. And I think he reminds me a little bit of Oliver Bjorkstrand, who was a really streaky goal scorer. And I think Laine's less streaky, but I think he has the same kind of, when he's unlucky, he's really unlucky. And when he's lucky, he's really lucky. And he's going through an unlucky patch at the minute. It'd be really great to see him get on the board tonight. Like I said in my previous segment, I would love to see him score the opening goal. I'd love to see him get more than one goal. But he's doing all of the right things. The puck's just not going in. And I think he understands that as well. And if you just keep doing what you're doing, the goals will come. This is just how goal scorers work. Sometimes they don't score, and then suddenly the floodgates open. They score in bunches. So I would not be surprised to see Laine's first goal be followed by, 3 or 4 in quick succession. Not in the same game, obviously, but maybe, one goal and then a 2-goal game and then another goal game and then another 2-goal game and then maybe a couple of games quiet. Like goal scorers are like that. They score in bunches. So I'm not worried about Laine. I do want to follow up a little bit with, I understand Larson limiting Gaudreau's minutes. It's a reflection of how Gaudreau is carrying himself right now. It's atrocious to look at. He looks like he doesn't want to be there, and he isn't leading, which the A requires. I don't agree with that. I think Gaudreau is dangerous every shift. I think he's struggling with line mates at the minute, which is what we're going to get into in a minute. But that being said, since the team will not make the playoffs anyway, he should plant Patty and Gaudreau on the same line and leave them on the same line for the rest of the season. Agree. If you look at the advanced statistics, Patty and Gaudreau are the most dangerous players, and they should play together. They don't need to divide the talent in a season like this, and they won't build solid chemistry without playing a lot together. Agree. Something that I have kind of been going up and down on for basically since they separated them. Is it good to split the talent, or do they want to put their two dangerous players together? And I think honestly, at this point, put them on the same line. Then you're not splitting the ice time between them. Gaudreau has a legitimate NHL goal scorer to pass to. I think that's, and we're going to talk about that Gaudreau, Johnson, Bemstrom line in a minute, because I do like it, but Bemstrom, I don't think is top line talent. I think he's top 6 talent. I think he's going to be a perfectly good second line winger, maybe a third line winger. But you want your guys that are going to play together hopefully for the next 4 seasons if not beyond that. You want those guys to play together. So yeah, put Gaudreau and Laine back together, put a center between them. That being said, that is what's happening tonight, I believe. I believe Roslovic is going to be centering them, which is what it is. I don't like it, but putting them together, I think, is maybe a step in the right direction. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them have some real success tonight. Especially if we go back to the ice time thing. If they're sharing ice time, then it means that they have more ice time to play guys like Marchenko, who has been really good in very limited minutes. Same with, I think Nyquist could do more with a little bit more ice time. It's, I don't know, it's a weird one. The only problem with putting them together is I do feel like, and this is going to be Emlin's next point, is Larson plays grunts too much, which is because he used to be one. The Kuraly line does not need to play 15 minutes a night. Let the young kids play who need playing time with each other to build the future. I agree. The problem with putting Gaudreau and Laine on the same line means that there's more ice time to give to Sean Kuraly and Mathieu Olivier, and when he's back, Eric Robinson, which becomes a problem because, as I've said multiple times on this show, it is not a terrible line in a vacuum. They are a line that succeeds when they play less. In the same way that, or kind of in the opposite way of, I've talked a lot before about Jonas Korpisalo. The more he plays, the better he is. He is not a goalie that can be a backup, despite the fact that he has, season backup numbers for many years. He's had kind of backup like numbers. He doesn't have the stats to back it up, basically. But the more he plays, the better he gets. Some goalies are like that. Some players are like that. The more they play, the more they thrive. Some players, you need to limit their minutes, and the more limited minutes they play, the better they are. That's true of Gabranson, I think. I think that's true of Andrew Peak. I think that's true of Vladislav Gavrikov. I think the less they play, the more effective they are, and I think that's definitely true of the Kuraly line. But because they need grit and heart and forechecking and fighting, that Kuraly line is going to continue to get ice time at the detriment to younger players, which is so frustrating. And that's kind of, I'm not going to go on too long about that because I feel like it's something that I've kind of gone over, but because you mentioned it, I did want to kind of just gloss over it a little. Not gloss over it, that's the wrong phrase, but I wanted to touch on it just because this is such a great comment, and I enjoyed reading it, and I enjoyed thinking about the things that you said, and we're going to keep doing that after the break, actually, because I have more to talk about. We're going to talk about Kirill Marchenko, and we're going to talk a little bit about Kent Johnson, so we're going to do that in just a minute, but first, are you looking for a delicious treat, but you don't want all of the fat and calories? You got to try Built Bar. We just got through the holidays. I know my goal is to eat a little bit healthier this year. And if you're like me, where you want to eat healthier, but unfortunately you are kind of a gremlin person that exists entirely on cereal and Slim Jims, then I have got the thing for you. Built is healthy and tasty. They are so delicious that you won't think they're good for you. So they're perfect for your New Year's resolution. Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. They come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. I don't know how they do it, but they taste exactly like a candy bar. But they have 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait around to order your boxes. For years, we've been talking about ordering them at build.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, go to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs there. Or if you're close to Sam's Club, you can grab in a 13-bar box with hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. And you can thank me later. Thank me by sending me some, because it is difficult for me to get them over here, and every time I get them, I hoard them. So run, don't walk to Walmart or Sam's Club. So we're going to keep talking about this comment. There's a couple more points that I want to get to. We're going to talk about Kirill Marchenko. I love how Marchenko is playing, but the goals are not a representation of the whole truth. His shooting percentage is 32.1, which is twice or more what will be his norm. He's taking over double the amount of shots in percentage unblocked, which is why they're sinking. But he has a great spirit, is a great skater, and I look forward to his development. That great skater point is interesting because I've had some comments of people being like, wow, Marchenko's such a bad skater. I don't think he's the greatest skater in the world. I think he's probably the weak. If you put him on a line with, he's playing with Johnson and Gaudreau for a minute, I think he was the weakest skater on that line. But I think for a guy in his first year in North America, I think he's a pretty good skater. And I think that's something that will come with time and experience and adaptation to the game. So I'm not worried about Marchenko in terms of how he's moving out there on the ice. I think that's something that will improve. Is his shooting percentage going to drop? Oh, almost definitely. That's such an unsustainable shooting percentage. But sometimes guys just decide to go on a tear. And even if, he's got 9 goals in 17 games so far, if he only scores another 9 goals for the rest of the season, or if he scores 11 goals for the rest of the season, so over the next 42 games, that's still a 20-goal season as a rookie. And, Cole Sillinger had an incredible season last year, and he only had 16 goals. Marchenko's a little bit older, yes. He's had a little bit more time to develop in the KHL, but this feels like, I don't know, Marchenko is so fun to watch. Every time he's out on the ice, I'm like, this kid is going to do something cool and crazy and fun. And yeah, I think you're right. He has a great spirit. I think he's got a great future ahead of him, and I'm excited to see it. Last point in this question, we need a proper center. With all due respect to Kent Johnson, he isn't a first-line center or even a second-line center. He might not be a center at all. Johnson, Bemmer, and Gaudreau together can create possession, but they aren't producing results beyond that. I both agree and disagree with this question. I think Kent Johnson is more successful on the wing. I think that's where his game can really flourish. I think he's succeeding at center. I just wish he would have. I wish he would have more consistent line mates, first of all. I think he needs to work on his face-offs, which, again, that's a thing that's going to come with time. That's going to come with strength. He's still only 19 years old. And, he's, I don't know what his official weight is, but I would guess probably his weight is about 180 pounds. Like, once he gets a little bit stronger, once he gets a little bit bigger, I think the face-offs will be easier. So I think that's something that, you got to keep an eye on. I think he's been succeeding. The problem with that line is, I think that as much as I love Bemstrom, I don't think he can keep up with Gaudreau or Johnson. I would be really excited to see a Gaudreau Johnson line, a top line for more than 5 minutes. That being said, I don't think he's the first line center of the future. Honestly, at this point, I think the first line center of the future is coming in this draft. The Blue Jackets, if they keep on their path, they're probably going to finish second last in the league. And that means that they're probably going to get second or third, maybe fourth overall pick. We're going to start our draft coverage pretty soon, even if they miss out on Bedard. My episode a couple of weeks ago with Hadi Kalakesh of Locked On NHL Prospects. If you miss out on Bedard, like Adam Fantilli or Matvei Michkov or Leo Carlson or Zach Benson, like those are all incredible consolation prizes. So even if the Blue Jackets draft third overall, they get Leo Carlson, like that's a first-line center for this team. So I'm happy to keep Johnson there as well. I think even if he does end up playing, on the second line, as a center, as a winger, whatever, I think giving him harder minutes now will make him a better player later. So I'm okay with leaving him up at that first line center. I assume when Jenna gets back, he will drop right back down to where he was playing before that. But right now, I think, and that's the other thing as well, is I think that these kids should be playing tougher minutes than they are. I understand not wanting to ruin their development, and I understand wanting to kind of protect their confidence a little bit. But like Kent Johnson tried the Michigan last game. His confidence is clearly not lacking. I don't think there's much you could do to this kid other than like cutting his minutes completely. And so, like, I think the more you play this kid, the tougher the assignments he gets, he's going to flourish. So give him those hard minutes, make him play against Ovechkin, make him play against McDavid, make him play against Crosby. Like, I think that's going to make him a better player in the future. So by all means, is he the first line center? Maybe not, but they might as well keep him there because they haven't got any better options, and I think it'll make him a better player in the future. So huge thank you to Emlyn for that comment. I didn't expect to spend as much time on it as I did, but I'm really glad that you sent it in. It gave me some really interesting things to think about, especially in terms of Laine and Gaudreau, and then obviously, you manifested that. They'll be doing that tonight. So huge thank you to you. I got some other really great comments on the same episode from BMO and B. Spangenberg. So shout out to you guys as well for commenting. Every comment I get is super great, but when people engage with the episode and ask questions and give their opinions, like that's my favorite. So please keep doing that. If you're any of these people, if you're new, hello, welcome. That's kind of all I've got for you today. Tomorrow we are going to break down tonight's game against Carolina. And hopefully we'll be breaking down something more fun than the last game I broke down, which was a 1-0 loss. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find this podcast at LO_Blue Jackets. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you once again for listening, for making this your first listen of the day every day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and also over on YouTube. So please go and hit subscribe if you haven't already. It means the world to me. It's a win-win for you. You get new episodes. You get notified when they go live. Like I say, everybody wins. So go hit subscribe on YouTube and enjoy the game tonight. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.